The galaxy had never seen a fear like this. From the icy moons of the outer rim to the glittering cities of the core, word spread of a merciless force known as the Xeric. Entire worlds disappeared in moments. Planets that had thrived for centuries were reduced to smoking ash in the span of a single day. No species dared to resist them. No fleet could stand against their weapons. And yet, when the small defenseless planet of Turvan sent out a desperate plea for help, the galaxy listened. They asked for Earth soldiers, humans. The message arrived as a simple distress signal, blinking urgently across the communication channels of the USS Horizon. "Help us," it said. "Our people will die if no one comes." Admiral Kale read the words in silence, the weight of the galaxy pressing down on his shoulders. Around him, the crew of the Horizon waited, eyes fixed on their commander. None questioned the call. None hesitated. They had been trained to respond. They had been trained to fight. Kale's fingers hovered over the console. He knew what the Turvans did not. Earth soldiers were feared not only for their skill, but for something deeper, something raw and unyielding. They were disciplined, yes, but when the innocent suffered and the guilty thrived, humans became executioners. And executioners were not kind. They did not negotiate. They did not stop until justice was done. "Set course for Turvan," Kyle said finally, his voice steady and calm. But beneath that calm was a fire the galaxy rarely witnessed. He did not promise mercy. He promised retribution. The crew moved with precise efficiency. The navigation officers punched in the coordinates, the engines hummed with power, and the ship slipped into hyperspace. Stars streaked past like silver ribbons, but Kale's mind was not on speed. It was on the people waiting on that dying planet. Children with frightened eyes, mothers clinging to empty hands, soldiers outnumbered 10-1. He pictured the terror on the Xeric's faces when they realized they had underestimated humans. In the command deck, a young lieutenant spoke softly. "Admiral, do you think we can really save them?" Kale's eyes did not leave the starfield outside. "We don't just save them," he said quietly. "We make sure their enemies never hurt anyone again." Silence fell, but it was not the quiet of fear. It was the quiet of understanding. Every human on the Horizon knew what that meant. They were not soldiers in the ordinary sense. They were humanity's edge, sharp and unrelenting. Where other species fought for victory, humans fought for survival and for justice. And when survival demanded it, they delivered the kind of punishment that legends were made of. The distress signal continued to repeat, desperate and trembling, and Kale could feel the fear behind it. He imagined the Turvan leaders sitting in ruined council halls, hoping against hope that someone, anyone, would come, and now they would see. They would see humans arrive, not as protectors with cautious hands, but as executioners with fire in their eyes. Kale leaned back in his chair, remembering Earth, remembering why humans were feared in every corner of the galaxy. On their home planet, humanity had survived ice ages, nuclear threats, plagues, and wars that tore entire nations apart. Humans had endured what no other species could. They had clawed their way to survival not by strength alone, but by cunning, by will, and by refusing to surrender even when the odds were impossible. And now that legacy followed them across the stars. The USS Horizon accelerated, leaving trails of bright light behind it. Kale imagined the Xeric receiving their first warning. A planet they thought weak and insignificant was about to strike back with fury. And for the first time, they would meet resistance unlike any they had ever known. Kale turned to his officers. "Prepare the troops," he said. "We fight not just for Turvan. We fight to remind the galaxy what it means to awaken humanity's wrath." A low hum of agreement swept through the deck. Engineers checked weapons. Pilots reviewed combat protocols. Medics prepared for the wounded. Every human aboard understood their role, but more importantly, they understood the message they carried. Earth soldiers were coming, and those who had terrorized the innocent would face judgment the likes of which the galaxy had never seen. As the stars streaked past the viewport, Kale whispered to himself, almost as if speaking to the Turvans he had never met. "You asked for soldiers. You will get our executioners." In that moment, the Horizon became more than a ship. It became a promise, a storm of human fury that would not rest until the cries of the innocent were answered. And somewhere deep in hyperspace, Kale felt a quiet satisfaction. This was what humanity did. When others fled, humans fought. When others hesitated, humans struck. And when life was threatened, humanity delivered justice. In its most final, unyielding form, the call of Turvin had been simple. The answer would be unstoppable. The first glimpse of Turvin shook even the most hardened soldiers aboard the USS Horizon. From orbit, the planet looked fragile, beautiful and broken all at once. Swirling orange clouds of acid storms painted the skies, and the surface below was scarred by fire and ruin. Cities that once glittered like jewels were now heaps of rubble, smoldering in silence. Rivers had turned black and forests were charred, leaving only the skeletons of what once was. From the ship's sensors, the devastation was clear. Entire districts had been erased. The Xeric had no mercy. They left nothing alive if they could help it. And yet, tiny pockets of life struggled to survive. Humans on the horizon could see movement in the streets, people running, hiding, clinging desperately to hope. Mothers carried children through dust and debris, soldiers fired at invisible enemies from broken barricades, and the few remaining leaders of Turvin tried to rally their people with voices trembling from fear. Cale stood at the bridge, his jaw tight. "This is worse than we imagined," he said softly, more to himself than anyone else. Around him, his crew prepared their exosuits and weapons, loading supplies into the dropships. The humans would not hesitate. They never did. The horizon descended slowly, its engines humming, reflecting on the burning clouds below. When the first troops touched down, the Turvins froze. They had sent for Earth soldiers, yes, but this was not what they expected. Humans were not just soldiers. They were an unstoppable force. Exosuits gleamed under the fiery sky, weapons scanned and primed. Drones hovered silently overhead, and every movement spoke of purpose, precision, and deadly intent. One of the Turvin leaders, an older man with deep lines on his face, stepped forward. We asked for soldiers," he stammered, voice trembling. "We didn't know." Cale's eyes met his. There was no malice in the human's gaze, only truth. "You asked for soldiers," Cale said, voice calm but firm. "You will get executioners. Those who hurt your people will not escape." The words sank in. The Turvins had expected defenders who might hold a line, who might fight and retreat, who might negotiate. They did not expect humans who hunted, struck, and delivered final judgment. The difference was clear in every move, every glance, every weapon lifted. Cale led his troops through the ruined streets, every step measured, every order crisp. They swept through the city, clearing pockets of Xeric resistance with efficiency that was almost terrifying. Buildings that were still standing became cover for both attackers and defenders. The humans moved like shadows, precise, unstoppable, untouchable. They were not merely protecting Turvins. They were rewriting the rules of survival. A group of soldiers rounded a corner and found a Xeric squad attempting to ambush a mother and her children. Within seconds, the attackers were incapacitated, not a single Turvin harmed. The mother's eyes widened as she realized what had happened. She had sent a message of desperation to the stars, pleading for help, and these humans had answered not just with courage but with judgment. Cale stopped for a moment, scanning the horizon. The city was burning in the distance, smoke curling toward the orange sky. Yet in that chaos, a strange calm existed. The humans fought not with panic, not with anger, but with a purpose deeper than revenge. Every strike was calculated, every move measured, every life saved intentional. A young Turvin boy approached, his small hands trembling as he held a broken toy. Are you going to fight them all?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. Cale knelt, meeting the boy's eyes. "We will fight every one of them who hurt you," he said softly. "No one will harm your people again." The boy's eyes shone with hope, the first light in weeks, maybe months. That hope spread among the survivors like wildfire. They began to rise from their hiding places, slowly coming out of the shadows to watch the humans move through the city. They whispered among themselves, fear mixing with awe. They had called for soldiers. They had received executioners. By nightfall, the first wave of Xeric attackers had been pushed back. Fires still burned, but the streets were no longer empty. Survivors peered from ruined buildings, clutching loved ones, watching humans patrol and protect with a level of precision that seemed almost superhuman. Cale did not celebrate, nor did his crew. There was no joy in this. There was only duty and the knowledge that this was just the beginning. Cale addressed his officers quietly, as if speaking to ghosts of the fallen. "We protect every life we can," he said, "and we will stop at nothing until every one of them who threatened this world is gone. We are not soldiers here. We are executioners, and that is what Turvan needs. The Turvans may have expected aid, but what they witnessed would be remembered forever. Humans did not just fight for survival. They fought to deliver justice, to make certain that no oppressor could ever rise again. And as the USS Horizon's lights reflected across the smoke-choked city, one truth was undeniable. Earth's soldiers had arrived. But what they brought with them was far more terrifying and far more protective than anyone could imagine. The galaxy had seen humans before. They had underestimated them before. But now on the burning streets of Turvan, the real story began. Dawn broke over Turvan and the city still smoldered. Smoke curled into the sky like ghostly fingers, the air heavy with the smell of fire and fear. The Jarak, sensing resistance, were not idle. Their ships streaked across the horizon, monstrous silhouettes bristling with weapons casting dark shadows over the ruins. The Turvans, peering from their shelters, trembled. Their prayers for salvation were about to be answered, but not in the way they imagined. The humans stood ready. Soldiers in exosuits moved with the calm precision of a single organism. Drones hovered silently above, scanning for threats. Kale's eyes were sharp, cold, and unyielding as he surveyed the approaching fleet. "Hold your fire until they are within range," he ordered, his voice steady, carrying the weight of certainty. "And when we strike with purpose. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to deliver justice." The first wave of Jarak fighters descended, confident, arrogant, thinking that humans would falter under fire. But the humans did not flinch. They waited, patient, calculating, silent. And then at Kale's command, the skies erupted. Drones swarmed the enemy, small but fast, targeting engines, weapons, and shields with surgical precision. Human artillery rained down from orbit, striking with a force that shattered enemy formations. On the ground, exosuit soldiers moved like shadows through the ruins, eliminating Jarak squads with methods that were swift, precise, and terrifying to watch. The Jarak had fought countless worlds, wiped out entire civilizations, yet they were unprepared for humans. The soldiers were relentless, efficient, and unyielding. Every human movement was purposeful, every attack measured. There was no hesitation, no fear, only the singular goal of protecting the innocent and punishing the guilty. Kale moved among his troops, issuing commands in short, sharp bursts. "Left flank, cover the civilians." Drones to intercept at Sector 3. "Orbital strike ready, now!" Every order was followed instantly, every maneuver executed perfectly. Yet behind the precision there was something more: fire, fury, a human refusal to allow evil to survive. A Jarak raider tried to ambush a Turvan outpost, confident that they would crush the humans with sheer numbers. Within moments, the ambush was destroyed. Not a single Turvan was harmed, but the Jarak attackers lay broken. One of the survivors looked on in shock, his eyes wide. They don't just fight," he whispered. "They punish." Kale noticed the boy watching from a distance, and his expression softened for a fraction of a second. The humans fought not for glory, not for conquest, but to ensure that the children of Turvan could live. Every Jarak that fell was a promise fulfilled. Every strike a message to the galaxy. Do not harm the innocent. Do not underestimate humanity. By mid-morning, the first wave of attackers had been decimated. The Jarak tried to regroup, but the humans anticipated every move. Satellites, drones, and ground forces formed a network of lethal efficiency. Every path the enemy tried to take was blocked, every escape cut off. It was as if the city itself had become a weapon in human hands. And yet amid the violence, Kale noticed something fragile. Hope. Turvans began emerging from their hiding places, watching humans move through the city. Mothers clutched children to their chests. Soldiers dared to raise their heads, and whispers of disbelief spread through the survivors. "They are not just soldiers. They are unstoppable," one murmured. Kyle's heart was heavy with the weight of responsibility. They had come as executioners, yes, but they were also protectors. Every life lost, every decision made carried the gravity of justice. Yet even as he gave orders, he felt the fire of humanity's resolve burning brighter than ever. This was why humans were feared across the galaxy, not for conquest, not for pride, but for the unyielding protection of life itself. As the sun rose higher, the last of the first wave of Jarak forces fell. Turvan's skies cleared slightly, smoke still rising but no longer suffocating. The survivors dared to step forward, their eyes wide with awe. They had called for soldiers and they had received something far more powerful. Humans who would fight, protect, and punish without hesitation. Kale looked over the city, his gaze distant, his jaw set. "This is only the beginning," he said softly to his officers. "They will come again, and when they do, we will be ready. We are not just soldiers, we are humanity's judgment. We are executioners." The humans regrouped, tending to the wounded, clearing debris, and preparing for the inevitable second strike. They moved with calm efficiency, but the Turvans could see the fire in their eyes. It was a fire that promised retribution, a fire that would not stop until justice was done. And somewhere in the distance, hidden among the ruins, the Jarek realized their mistake. They had faced many civilizations, many armies, but never humans. They had underestimated a species that fought not just for victory, but for life itself. They had expected soldiers. Instead, they faced executioners. The first strike was over, but the war had just begun. And Turvan, for the first time in years, could breathe, knowing that Earth's soldiers had arrived and that they were unstoppable. The morning air was thick with smoke and the scent of burned metal. Turvan's city of Malvek lay in ruins, but the humans moved through it with quiet, lethal purpose. They had won the first battle, yes, but Kale knew better than to believe the war was over. The Jarek were clever, cruel, and patient. They would strike again, and this time they would try to trap them. Reports from scouts confirmed Kale's fears. The Jarek had lured the humans toward the central city. Every sensor indicated ambush points, hidden turrets, and traps that could crush soldiers and civilians alike. But leaving the Turvans to face this threat alone was not an option. Kale's eyes hardened. "We fight," he said. "Every life counts, and we will not abandon a single soul." Exosuit soldiers moved with a precise, silent coordination through the streets. Drones hovered above, scanning for any sign of the enemy. Every corner of Malvek had been rigged with explosives, alien weapon nests, and sniper positions. The humans knew every step could be their last. Yet there was no hesitation. Fear existed, yes, but it was sharpened into focus, honed into a weapon as powerful as any rifle or missile. The first ambush struck suddenly. Jarek forces emerged from hidden alleys, firing with deadly accuracy. Explosions ripped through the city, throwing rubble into the air. A group of Turvan survivors screamed, crouching under the destruction, but the humans reacted instantly. Shields deployed, plasma rifles flared, and within seconds the attackers were neutralized. Not a single Turvan was harmed. Kyle's voice cut through the chaos, calm and commanding. "Advance in squads. Cover every corner. Protect the civilians first. Engage and destroy." His soldiers moved like shadows, weaving through the smoke and fire, striking with precision. Every Jarek who dared fire found themselves falling under calculated retaliation. The Turvans watched in awe. They had imagined Earth's soldiers would fight to hold a line, perhaps even retreat when outnumbered. What they saw now was something different. Humans did not fight merely to survive. Humans punished. Humans executed without hesitation. Every strike was a lesson. Every maneuver a message. No one would harm the innocent and walk away. Kale led the advance toward the central square, where the main ambush awaited. The city was a trap, yes, but the humans moved as if they had designed it themselves. Mines were disarmed with careful precision. Explosives were detonated safely, and enemy positions neutralized one by one. The Jarek had expected panic, but humans did not panic. They adapted. They predicted. They executed. Amid the chaos, Kale noticed a small group of civilians trapped in a collapsed building. Without hesitation, he called a squad to extract them. Heavy debris was lifted, children pulled to safety, and mothers clutched their families, eyes wide with disbelief and hope. One child looked up at Kale and whispered, "Are you really here to save us?" Kyle knelt and met the boy's gaze. "We promised, and we always keep our promises." By midday, the ambush was unraveling. Jarek forces, confident in their trap, found themselves surrounded and outmaneuvered. Human squads moved in tight formation, striking from all sides, using the city itself as cover. Buildings, streets, and even rubble became weapons in their hands. Every corner they turned revealed a new tactic, a new precision strike, a new lesson for the enemy. Do not underestimate humanity. The Jarek commander finally appeared in the central square, flanked by the last of his elite forces. He sneered, believing the humans would tire, that they would falter under pressure. Kale stepped forward calmly, exosuit armor gleaming under the smoke-filled sky. "This ends now," he said quietly but with deadly certainty. "Surrender, oh." Hardai, the commander, laughed, a cruel, hollow sound. "Do you think your puny species can stop us?" he shouted. "You are nothing but insects." Before he could finish, the humans struck. Drones swarmed, cutting off escape routes. Ground troops closed in from every side. The Jarek elite, though skilled and trained, were overwhelmed. Within moments, the commander's forces lay broken and scattered. Malvek was saved, civilians rescued, and the city's trap turned against its creators. Kale looked over the square, surveying the destruction. His soldiers did not celebrate. They did not gloat. Every move had been about protection and retribution, not glory. The Turvans, however, whispered among themselves, staring with awe. They had called for soldiers. They had expected protection. But what they witnessed now was something far more terrifying and magnificent: humanity's executioners in action. As the humans regrouped, Kale addressed his officers. "We have saved lives today, yes. But this is only the beginning. They will strike again, and when they do, we must be ready. Remember, we are not here to negotiate, to retreat, or to hesitate. We are here to deliver judgment." The Turvans would remember this day forever. They had called for help, and humans had come not just as soldiers, but as a force that would hunt evil, protect the innocent, and execute those who dared to harm life. From the burning ruins of Malvek, the humans moved forward, steady, relentless, a storm that the Jarek had never imagined. They were soldiers, yes, but more than that, they were humanity's judgment. They were executioners, and the galaxy would soon learn what that truly meant. Beyond Malvek, the landscape of Turvan gave way to desolation. Forests had turned to blackened skeletons. Rivers ran thick with ash, and mountains bore scars of firestorms. Yet the humans pressed forward, moving deeper into enemy territory. Every step carried the weight of responsibility, every decision a burden of justice. The Jarek were relentless, but humans were relentless too. Kale stood on a ridge overlooking the valley ahead. Sensors showed movement: enemy patrols, scouting drones, and fortified positions. The humans would face ambushes, traps, and overwhelming numbers, yet he felt no fear. "This is where we strike hardest," he said to his officers, voice steady, carrying a calm that belied the storm ahead. "We protect the innocent, and we ensure the guilty cannot rise again. Every move we make must count." The squads advanced in tight formation. Every human soldier knew their role. Drones scanned above, sending live images to the command center. Artillery teams prepared precise strikes. Engineers disarmed hidden mines and booby traps with speed and accuracy that left even the Turvans in awe. Every human movement was like a dance of war, precise and deadly, yet designed to protect life wherever possible. Jarek scouts attempted a surprise attack in the valley, expecting humans to panic. But the humans were ready. Plasma rifles flared, drones swooped down with surgical strikes, and within moments the enemy was neutralized. One of the Turvan soldiers who had survived previous attacks whispered to another, "They don't fight like anyone I've ever seen. They don't just kill, they judge." Kale's gaze scanned the horizon. Farther into the valley lay the heart of the Jarek's operation, a heavily fortified stronghold that coordinated attacks across the planet. To take it would be to cripple the enemy completely, but it was also a trap, the most dangerous of all. Kale did not flinch. "We go forward," he said. "We do not retreat. We do not hesitate. Every action we take is for those who cannot defend themselves. Every life we save is worth the risk." The humans pressed into the stronghold's outskirts, and the battle intensified. Jarek forces poured out from hidden bunkers, firing with deadly accuracy. Explosions rocked the valley, shaking the ground beneath the humans' feet. Yet they moved with calm efficiency. Shields deployed, suppressive fire covered civilians, and counterattacks were swift and devastating. Every Jarek who attacked faced precise retaliation. Every human move was designed to protect life and eliminate the threat. Amid the chaos, Kale noticed a Turvan child trapped under debris. Without hesitation, he signaled a squad to extract the child while maintaining the offensive. Within minutes, the child was safe, tears streaming down his face as he stared in disbelief at the humans. You saved us," he whispered. Kale only nodded, eyes steely. Saving lives was duty. Protecting the innocent was priority. Punishing the guilty was humanity's promise. The Jarek commander of the stronghold, a cruel and cunning strategist, finally appeared on the battlefield. His forces attempted to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. But the humans did not falter. Every attack was countered with precision. Flanks were protected, ambushes neutralized, and the enemy's morale began to crack. Kale moved through the battlefield, issuing commands, coordinating strikes, and ensuring that every Tervan life was preserved. By midday, the humans had broken through the first line of the stronghold. The Xeric were retreating, disorganized and panicked, unable to predict the humans' next move. The Tervans watched, fear turning into hope, hope turning into awe. They had asked for soldiers, and they had received a force that would fight with unwavering judgment and unmatched skill. Kale stood on the edge of the stronghold, overlooking the battlefield. Fires burned in the distance, smoke rising in thick columns. But he saw something else too. Survivors moving freely, children laughing in cautious relief, adults daring to stand tall again. This was why humans fought. Not for glory, not for conquest, but to ensure life survived. To ensure the guilty could never harm the innocent again. As the humans advanced deeper into the heart of the enemy, Kale reminded his officers, "We are not just fighting a war. We are sending a message. No one will harm these people. No one will rise to terrorize again. We are humanity's judgment, and judgment does not wait." The Tervans, who had hidden in fear for months, now dared to hope. They saw the difference between soldiers and executioners. They had called for help, and humans had come not just to fight but to protect, to punish, and to ensure that evil could never rise again. By evening, the humans had secured the outer defenses of the stronghold. The Xeric retreated into the inner sanctum, regrouping for what they thought would be the final stand. Kale knew it was only a matter of time before the decisive battle came. But humans were ready. They had trained for this, survived for this, and carried within them a fire that no enemy could extinguish. As the sun set over the valley, painting the smoke-filled sky with shades of red and gold, Kyle looked at the soldiers around him. "Tonight we rest. Tomorrow we finish this. Humanity does not abandon life, and humanity does not forgive those who threaten it. We are executioners, and soon they will know why." The Tervans would remember this day forever. They had survived the heart of war because humans had arrived, not just as soldiers but as protectors, as judges, and as executioners who would not rest until justice was done. The stars above the Xeric homeworld burned cold and distant as the USS Horizon and its fleet emerged from hyperspace. From orbit, the planet looked beautiful and deadly, a swirling mass of dark metal cities, black oceans, and skies thick with storms. This was the heart of the enemy, the place where terror was born. And now, humanity had come not to negotiate, not to retreat, but to deliver final judgment. Kyle stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the planet. "This is it," he said, voice low but filled with authority. "Everything we have done so far has led us here. We are not soldiers coming to fight, we are executioners. Every life they have destroyed, every world they have burned ends tonight." Below, the human fleet moved with calculated precision. Drones scanned the surface, revealing enemy fortifications, supply lines, and hidden weapons depots. Orbital artillery locked onto key targets. Ground troops prepared for deployment, their exosuits gleaming under the faint light of the planet's sun. Every human aboard understood the mission: protect life, destroy evil, and leave nothing for the Xeric to recover. The first strike was swift and devastating. Orbital weapons fired in synchronized bursts, reducing military installations to rubble within seconds. Drones swept through cities, targeting weapon caches and patrols. On the ground, human squads descended from drop pods, moving silently, efficiently, with deadly precision. The Xeric fought back, but they had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that combined strategy, precision, and absolute resolve. Explosions shook the cityscapes as humans cleared each district. Xeric squads tried to regroup, but wherever they turned, humans were waiting. One squad, cornered in an industrial complex, found themselves surrounded. There was no surrender, no bargaining. Kale's troops moved in like shadows, striking with lethal efficiency. Within moments, the enemy was gone. Not a single civilian was harmed. Tervan watchers, observing from secure orbit, could hardly believe what they saw. The humans did not merely attack. They executed with purpose. Every strike was measured, every maneuver precise, and every Xeric who survived even a moment longer was facing their inevitable end. The Tervans whispered among themselves, awe in their voices. They don't just fight. They judge, one said softly. Kale moved through the battle in real time, coordinating strikes, giving orders, and ensuring that the civilians still trapped in the cities were rescued. Every human soldier knew the stakes. They had trained for war, yes, but this was more than war. This was justice, delivered with a calm, terrifying precision. The humans were not here to negotiate. They were here to finish what the Jarek had started against countless innocent lives. The Jarek commander, realizing the humans could not be stopped by conventional force, attempted a desperate counterattack. Massive war machines rolled from hidden bunkers, firing with devastating energy. But humans adapted instantly. Drones intercepted, orbital artillery targeted weak points, and ground forces moved in coordinated flanking maneuvers. Each strike was calculated to destroy the enemy while avoiding civilian casualties. Kyle watched the battle unfold with quiet intensity. Every explosion, every takedown of the Jarek forces, every life saved reinforced the truth. Humans were not merely soldiers, they were executioners. They judged and delivered punishment where it was deserved. The Jarek had terrorized countless worlds, but none had faced this kind of unyielding, calculated retribution. By nightfall, the Jarek homeworld was in chaos. Fires burned across cities, smoke filling the skies. The enemy's military infrastructure lay in ruins. Commanders had been eliminated, troops scattered or destroyed. The humans had left no room for escape. Yet Kale did not celebrate. There was no pride in destruction, only the knowledge that justice had been done. Tervans watched from their safe orbit, fear turning into relief. For the first time in decades, the cries of the innocent were answered. The humans had come not as soldiers, not as allies who might hesitate, but as executioners who would see evil eradicated. Kale addressed his officers over the comms, voice calm but carrying the weight of authority. We have done what was necessary. The enemy's threat has ended. But remember, this is the cost of protection. The innocent live because we chose to act. Humanity fights not for glory, not for conquest, but to protect life. And when life is threatened, we become executioners. As the fleet began regrouping, Kale took a moment to observe the ruins below. Cities that had once spread fear now lay silent. Rivers of fire had claimed the instruments of terror. And through it all, the humans moved with a quiet dignity, never celebrating, never gloating, only ensuring that what needed to be done was done. The Tervans would remember this forever. They had called for soldiers. They had received something far more powerful. Humans who could not be bargained with, could not be intimidated, and would not stop until justice had been delivered. The Jarek had underestimated humanity, and that mistake had cost them everything. Kale looked toward the stars, thinking of Earth, thinking of the countless battles humanity had survived. We do not fight for revenge, he whispered. We fight to protect life, and when life is threatened, Earth soldiers become executioners. That is our promise. That is our legacy. The galaxy would hear of this day. The Jarek threat was over. Tervan was safe, and humanity had proven once again that when the innocent cried out for help, no force, no matter how cruel or powerful, could stand against the executioners of Earth. The fires had burned themselves out, leaving Tervan cities scarred but alive. The Jarek threat had been destroyed. Across the planet, smoke still curled into the sky, but it no longer carried fear. It carried a strange sense of hope, the knowledge that the nightmare was over. The Tervans emerged from their hiding places, blinking against the sun, stepping over rubble, and seeing for the first time in generations that they were free. Admiral Kale stood atop the ridge overlooking the city. His exosuit reflected the pale light of Tervan's sun, armor scorched but intact. Around him, his soldiers moved quietly, checking on survivors, securing the ruins, and ensuring that no threats remained. They had fought with precision, delivered justice, and saved countless lives, but they did not celebrate. Humanity never celebrated its judgment. They moved on, steady, relentless, and focused. A young Tervan girl ran up to Kale holding a small torn doll. Her eyes were wide, filled with awe and fear and something new, gratitude. You saved us, she whispered. Kale knelt to meet her gaze, voice calm but filled with quiet authority. We promised, he said softly, and we always keep our promises. The Tervans around her began to gather, some crying, some smiling, all stunned by the human's presence. They had asked for soldiers, yes, but what had arrived was far beyond anything they had imagined. Humans did not merely fight, they judged. They executed those who threatened life and protected those who could not defend themselves. That truth had been proven in blood and fire, and Turvin would never forget it. Cale turned to his officers, voice low but commanding. "We stay only as long as necessary. The people are safe. The enemy is gone. We leave no trace of fear behind, only hope and protection." His soldiers nodded silently, moving with the same calm, precise efficiency that had carried them through every battle. Throughout the ruined cities, humans helped rebuild temporary shelters, treated the wounded, and organized survivors. Their presence was quiet but powerful. No speeches, no declarations, only actions that spoke louder than words. To the Turvins, this was astonishing. These were not heroes seeking praise. These were guardians, executioners of evil and protectors of life all in one. As night fell, the survivors lit small fires, gathering in safe zones. They whispered stories of the humans' deeds, recounting the way they had moved through the streets and skies, neutralizing threats with almost supernatural efficiency. "They are not like any soldiers we have seen," one elder murmured. "They are judgment made flesh. They are executioners, and they saved us." Kyle stood on the edge of the ridge looking up at the stars. The battle was over, but the responsibility remained. Humanity had answered a call for help, a call many other species had ignored. The humans had come not for glory, not for conquest, but because it was the right thing to do. Every world, every child, every innocent life mattered. And when the innocent cried out, humans answered, not as soldiers who fight and retreat, but as executioners who ensured evil would never rise again. The USS Horizon and the human fleet prepared to leave orbit. Troops boarded ships, their movement steady and quiet. Cale gave the final order: lift off. Return to space. We leave no world in fear when humanity is done. The engines roared as the fleet ascended, leaving Turvin behind. The planet was battered but alive. Its people were safe, and the Jarek were gone forever. As the fleet sailed into the stars, Cale allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Every battle, every strike, every life saved had come at a cost. Yet it was worth it. Turvin would rebuild. Its people would thrive. And the galaxy would know the truth. Humans were not only capable of survival, they were capable of ensuring that justice was absolute. Below, Turvins began the long process of rebuilding. They would never forget the humans who had arrived in their hour of need. Children grew up hearing stories of the executioners from Earth, soldiers who did not merely fight but delivered judgment and ensured that the innocent could live free. The memory of fear transformed into a memory of awe, respect, and hope. Cale looked one last time at the planet, voice barely a whisper. "We do not fight for glory. We fight to protect life, and when life is threatened, humanity becomes executioners. That is our promise. That is who we are." And with that, the USS Horizon and its fleet disappeared into the void, leaving Turvin to rise from the ashes. The galaxy would remember this day, not for the destruction of a planet, but for the arrival of humans who answered the cries of the innocent with unmatched courage, precision, and judgment. Turvin was free. The Zarek were no more, and humanity had shown once again why the galaxy feared and respected its executioners.